It's payday. You grab your morning coffee, and your phone lights up with that sweet direct deposit notification. Honestly, is there any better feeling in the world? And because you're a responsible adult who is seriously thinking about your future, you do exactly what everyone tells you is the right thing to do. You pay your bills, maybe you treat yourself to a nice dinner, and then you take 20% of your paycheck and chuck it straight into a savings account. You watch that money sit there, nice and safe in your banking app. You check it at the end of the month, and boom, it earned a tiny, pitiful little fraction of a percent in interest. We're talking like enough to buy half a candy bar. But still, you pat yourself on the back and think, I'm so smart. I'm following the rules. Managing my finances like this, I'll never have to worry about being broke. But hold on. Let's pause for just 2 seconds. What if I told you that the seemingly safest and most secure financial move that our parents, our schools, and society always taught us is actually one of the biggest financial myths of our entire generation? That's right. You probably think the bank is just holding on to your wealth for you in a highly secure vault. Not quite. The truth is, the value of your hard-earned money is slowly, quietly, and incredibly smoothly eroding every single day. You might be falling into a comfortable routine, tricking yourself into thinking you getting richer just because the number on the screen isn't going down. But in reality, invisible forces and hidden costs are silently draining your purchasing power without you even realizing it. You think you are climbing a mountain, but you're actually walking on a treadmill that's going in reverse. Sounds a bit hard to believe, right? A little too pessimistic, but stick with me for a few minutes, because I'm about to show you a truth that will completely rewire how you think about your money, your time, and your life. I'm going to use some extremely simple math to prove to you exactly why letting your money sleep in a traditional bank account is actually a mathematical losing game. If we haven't met yet, welcome to Longview Invests. I absolutely obsess over the real math behind our money, decoding the financial matrix we all live in, and figuring out how to actually keep the wealth we break our backs to earn every single day. Now, before we dive into the actual numbers and expose exactly how the system is set up against your traditional savings account, I need to give you a quick warning. What I'm about to share today might make you a little uncomfortable. In fact, it might even make you a little bit angry at first. Because nobody likes finding out that they've been playing by the rules of a game that was mathematically rigged from the start. But I promise you, if you stick with me until the end of this video, that frustration is going to turn into absolute empowerment. You are going to have a completely new lens through which to view your paycheck, your time, and your financial freedom. So, if you have ever looked at your bank balance after a long, exhausting month of work and thought to yourself, where did it all go? I worked too hard to only have this much left over. Do me a quick favor. Hit that like button right now. It tells the YouTube algorithm that real, transparent financial education matters, and it helps push this message to other hardworking people who desperately need to hear it. And while you're down there, hit subscribe and join the community so you don't miss any of our future deep dives. All right, are you ready to see the math? Let's strip away the complicated financial jargon and talk about the fundamental lie we've all been fed about how a salary actually works. Because the moment you stop treating your income like a regular employee and start looking at it like a business owner, everything changes. Let's get straight to the core of the illusion. The biggest financial lie we've been taught since grade school is how we define our income. When someone asks you how much you make, what do you say? You probably say something like, I make $60,000 a year, or I make $25 an hour. Society has trained you to look at your salary as the money you actually have. But from a purely financial perspective, that is completely backwards. To understand why, we need to look at your life the way a CEO looks at a business. Let's say you open a local coffee shop. In your first year, you sell $60,000 worth of coffee. Does that mean you, the owner, get to put $60,000 straight into your personal savings account? Absolutely not. That $60,000 is just your top line, gross revenue. Before you see a single dime of actual wealth, you have to pay for the coffee beans, the electricity, the rent for the building, the espresso machines, and of course the taxes. Whatever tiny slice of the pie is left over at the very end. That is your actual net profit. Well, here is the wake-up call. You need to start treating yourself as you incorporated. Your salary, your paycheck, that sweet direct deposit that is not your money. That is simply the gross revenue of your personal business. And just like that coffee shop, in order to generate that revenue, you have massive operating expenses. You have overhead costs just to function as an employee in today's society. But because we are trained to think like workers instead of business owners, we completely ignore these expenses. We just look at the top line and assume we are doing great. But once we actually audit the real, hidden costs of simply having a job, the math gets shocking very quickly. Let me show you exactly what I mean. Let's meet our hypothetical friend James. James just landed a solid office job making $60,000 a year. He's absolutely thrilled. He thinks he has 60 grand to build his life and start saving. But let's run an audit on James' personal business. First up, Uncle Sam takes his slice right off the top. Between federal taxes, state taxes, Social Security, and Medicare, that $60,000 immediately drops to around $48,000 before the money even hits his checking account. Now James actually needs to get to the building that pays him. He needs a reliable car, gas, insurance, tires, and maintenance. Let's be incredibly conservative and say his daily commute costs him $5,000 a year. His revenue is now down to $43,000. Next up, the appearance tax. James can't show up to the office in his favorite sweatpants. He needs professional clothes, dry cleaning, and regular haircuts just to look the part. Let's call that a modest $1,500 a year. Then comes the sneaky one, the convenience tax. Because James is rushing every morning, he grabs a $5 coffee. Because he only has 30 minutes for lunch, he buys a $15 salad. And because he is completely exhausted by the time he gets home at 6 p.m., he orders DoorDash twice a week. That convenience is easily draining another $5,000 a year just to keep his engine running. Finally, the decompression tax. Working 40 hours a week under fluorescent lights is stressful. James needs to blow off steam. A few drinks with coworkers on Friday, streaming subscriptions, and random online shopping, all justified by the classic phrase, "I work hard. I deserve this." Let's add another $3,000. Let's do the math. $60,000 minus taxes, his commute, his wardrobe, convenience meals, and decompression. James' actual net profit from his job is now hovering around $33,500. Almost half of his income vanished just to support the fact that he has a job. And remember, we haven't even paid for his rent or groceries yet. His profit margin is looking terrible. But honestly, that isn't even the scariest part. Because we haven't even audited his time. We just audited James's money, and it looks pretty bad. But here is the brutal truth. You can always make more money, but you can never, ever make more time. So, let's audit James's hours. James thinks he works a standard 40-hour work week. Because his salary is $60,000, he believes his time is worth about $30 an hour. But just like his paycheck, that 40 hours is a complete illusion. Let's look at the hidden hours he sacrifices just to maintain that job. First, James doesn't just teleport to his desk at 9 a.m. He wakes up at 7 a.m. to shower, shave, and put on that professional wardrobe. That's 1 unpaid hour a day, or 5 hours a week. Then, he has his commute. Let's say it's an average 45-minute drive in bumper-to-bumper traffic each way. That is an hour and a half a day, or 7.5 unpaid hours a week. Don't forget the mandatory unpaid lunch hour. He's not at home relaxing. He's stuck near the office. That's another 5 hours a week given to the company. And finally, the decompression time. When James walks through his front door at 6 p.m., is he immediately ready to hit the gym or build a side business? No. He crashes on the couch for at least an hour just to recover from the mental exhaustion of the day. That is 5 more hours a week directly claimed by his job. Let's add it all up. 40 hours at the desk, plus 22.5 hidden hours of prep, travel, and recovery. James isn't working 40 hours a week. He is dedicating 60 to 2.5 hours of his life to that job. Now let's do the final, devastating math. Take his actual net profit of $33,500 and divide it by those 62.5 hours over a 50-week year. James isn't making $30 an hour. His real take-home profit is about $10.72 an hour. He thought he was a highly paid professional building wealth, but mathematically, his personal business is netting less than minimum wage in many states. That is the reality of the system we are told to blindly trust. Now that we know James is actually netting around $10 an hour, let's talk about what that really means for his life. Because once you understand this math, the way you look at a price tag will never be the same. When you go to the store and see a new smartphone for $1,000, you aren't spending $1,000. You are spending your net hourly profit. For James, that phone doesn't cost $1,000. It costs almost 100 hours of his actual life. That is 2.5 solid weeks of his life energy, permanently traded away just for a piece of glass and metal. But wait, what about climbing the corporate ladder? Let's say James works his tail off and gets a promotion to $75,000 a year. That's the dream, right? But with that new manager title comes way more stress. Now he's expected to answer emails at 8 p.m. He leases a slightly nicer car to look the part. He's working 50 hours at the desk instead of 40, which means his decompression time absolutely skyrockets. His gross revenue went up, but his actual profit margin, his real net hourly wage, often stays exactly the same or even drops. This is the ultimate opportunity cost. The system is quite literally designed to profit off your exhaustion. Because you are so completely drained from the hidden hours of your job, you gladly pay the convenience tax. You don't have the mental energy left to build a business, learn a high-income skill, or figure out how to actually invest that 20% sitting in your bank app. And speaking of that savings account, while your money is sitting there losing its purchasing power to inflation, the bank is turning around and lending your money out to someone else at 10% interest. They are compounding your wealth for themselves. It sounds bleak. It sounds incredibly frustrating. But getting a little angry is the first step to getting out. Because now that you can clearly see the trap, you can finally build an escape route. All right, take a deep breath. I know we just went through a lot of heavy math, and it might feel a bit overwhelming. But here is the incredibly good news. Now that you can clearly see the matrix, you can finally start to hack it. It is time to step up and become the ruthless CEO of You Incorporated. If your life is a business, and your salary is just your gross revenue, your absolute #1 goal starting today is to aggressively optimize your profit margins. You need to stop focusing exclusively on chasing a slightly bigger paycheck and start focusing on keeping more of your money and your time. So, how do we actually do that? We audit and cut the hidden operational costs of your job. Let's look at the biggest bleed: the commute, the convenience, and the appearance taxes. What if James negotiated to work from home just 2 or 3 days a week? Immediately, his gas bill drops. His car maintenance plummets. He doesn't need to buy a $15 mediocre salad because his own kitchen is right there. Most importantly, he instantly reclaims those lost, unpaid hours spent staring at someone's bumper in rush hour traffic. By simply changing how he works, James just gave himself a massive raise in his real, net hourly wage, without ever needing to ask his boss for a single penny more. This is the ultimate paradigm shift. From now on, your gross salary is just a vanity metric. The only metrics that actually matter are your net profit margin, how much cash you actually keep after hidden costs of working, and your time left over. When you reclaim your margins and you reclaim your energy, you stop paying those expensive decompression taxes. You finally have the mental bandwidth to take that money sitting in your banking app and put it into real assets, investments that actually pay you to own them, instead of letting the bank get rich off your hard work. So, here is your exact homework for today. As soon as this video ends, I want you to sit down with a piece of paper and do your own personal financial audit. Calculate your real net profit after taxes, after the commute, after the convenience meals, and after the wardrobe costs. Then, divide that number by the actual hours you dedicate to your job, including all that hidden prep and recovery time. Find your real net hourly wage. Then, I want you to write that exact number on a sticky note and put it right on your computer monitor or inside your wallet. Every single time you are tempted to buy something you don't actually need, or every time you are asked to work late for free, I want you to look at that sticky note. Ask yourself, Is this purchase actually worth 20 hours of my life? Is this extra stress worth my freedom? Because once you start pricing your life in hours instead of dollars, your entire financial trajectory will change forever. Here at Longview Invests, we believe that true wealth isn't just about a massive gross salary or a shiny job title. True wealth is having absolute, unapologetic control over your own time. It's about building a life where your money works for you, instead of you working yourself to the bone just to keep the bank rich. If this video gave you a wake-up call today, please do me a huge favor and smash that like button. Share this with that one friend or coworker who is always working overtime but still feels broke. They absolutely need to see this math. And most importantly, hit subscribe and join the Longview Invests community so we can keep building real, lasting wealth together. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.